Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is brought to you by Capri Sun. We'd like to welcome them on board here with Ellis Nasty as one of our main sponsors. So you guys will see us drinking Capri Suns in a lot of videos. Big fan as a child growing up. They're handy, they're portable.
Natural ingredients.
Natural ingredients. This one here is Mountain Cooler and it made my day a whole lot better. But anyways, we're back making another video here, putting the motor in the Glizzard. And I know what you guys are thinking. John, it's getting pretty similar to the header build. Well, it's life. And sometimes in life, you get sidetracked or things hold you up. But, unlike most people, we stay at it. Most people would give up when Logan's phone rings. But we're not giving up. We're going to power through this clip just like we are putting this motor in here. We got the mid plate, I'd say 38% installed. It's cut, it fits. You have to weld a tab over there, and then we can work on the motor plate. So we got the mid plate in there.
Yep.
Baby steps. Is this the last part of install engine in Mustang video?
I surely hope so.
Yeah, we're about to do it.
The grass
You
thing.
said you had a mock-up block?
Yeah, I got a mock-up block, which is going to help, I guess, because it's aluminum too, which is very nice.
Yeah, I'm going to just grab that thing, ram it in there.
Okay. Yeah. What are the steps? What are we about to do here? What are the steps?
I'm going to clean this off a little bit more, and the paint, weld this bracket on for the mid plate. Drill the mid plate, get it level where it needs to go, drill it, and then put the block in there. And once the block's in there, check our angle out like we did on Slick Rig. We'll probably need to cut all this stuff off in the front because this thing had a modular engine and the length's different. So we'll cut this off once we get this mounted because we're measuring off this for our dimensions. Make sure the mid plate's square in the chassis. After that, motor plate, and that's about it because we're going to do a lot of floor structure work and kind of like a single frame rail with an upper frame rail deal. So we can't really do much with the transmission cross member because that's what we're going to be mounting to. So we can get the mid plate done and the motor plate done. We're using the old motor plate from the Colorado,
which was really it was untampered with. It was used just factory length, and we just bolted it right in there. So also some stuff on the blower. We're going to remove this whole alternator drive kit. So this alternator and everything is going to be gone. So it's literally going to be just the blower. The balancer was sent out to Kyle at New Era, who super helpful. And Kyle did he essentially made it so the blower adapter that goes up to the balancer indexes, is that the right term? Indexes inside the balancer, so it is centered, so it won't wobble.
Hub-centric style, so anything like any of your crank stuff, trigger wheels, all that should be hub-centric. Drive mandrel, that way. The bolts don't center it. The hub itself is what centers it. So if you have two females or one that's a different bore registry, you're not going to have a centered mandrel. I mean, I guess you could if you really had to mess with it, but it's not how it's designed. So he's going to get us fixed up on that.
It's on its way back, actually. So he knocked that out. New Era Racecraft. He makes all the brackets. He made this blower drive kit. Highly recommend to Kyle over there. Super easy to deal with, super helpful, and he makes some pretty sweet stuff. So shout out to Kyle at New Era. So if you guys are looking for a blower drive, he's someone you definitely recommend.
Yeah. We're going to get this in here, figure out, we're probably going to be mounting, this one's going to be a little bit different than the Sheep where it's the dry sump or the external wet sump is driven off of the back of the mandrel. This one will actually probably have a drive off of the blower setup. So right now the alternator is driven off of it. The problem with this is we're going to have to do some fudging around with our pulleys because this is after the blower drive, overdrive. So we don't want to be spinning the oil pump 15,000 RPM or something, so we might have to do some different size pulleys that are a little bit different than what we normally run. Or there's another hex drive off of the bottom of the blower bracket we might be able to drive it off of. It's just one of those things we're just gonna have to get in there and see.
So we're gonna run the same oil pump fuel pump combo. I got an Aeromotive Black and a Waterman, but I'm gonna send those off and get those repaired. I'll put the Waterman dual spur gear pump on Colorado. I mean, I don't know. Do I need? I could run on this. If we're gonna run this one on nitro, it's probably gonna consume more fuel.
Nah, that other one's fine. The Aeromotive, I would run the Aeromotive on this and the Waterman on the Colorado.
Okay. Well, that's the plan. That's what we'll do. So I guess it's time to start doing it.
Yeah, get it over here, get some tools over here. We got a bunch of stuff over there. We're gonna move everything over here and
get this knocked out.
Yeah, weld it up.
So what are you doing right now?
Trying to get the motor plate. So the rear, a majority of the horizontal bars on the chassis are at 0.9 degrees. So that's, you know, the chassis, it's on jack stands, it's not level. So I'm hoping that whenever they put the cage in there, I would assume that all the bars wouldn't be out 0.9. So
they're consistently out 0.9.
Yep.
We need to believe the car is sitting a little bit crooked on jack stands.
Yeah, 0.9. The frame rail shows about 0.9, so we're going to put the motor plate in at 0.9.
Which, you know, in theory, you set everything back down, it's all square. Motor should be square then.
Yes. So I got that. We talked about, got all this tightened up on this other motor plate, so we're going to get this bracket. I just cleaned all this off. This is going to go here. We got our dimensions to the motor plate is 21 3/4, so we're going to measure from the face of this to this. Should be 21 3/4. Whenever we, yeah, that's already 21 3/4, so it's pretty much where it wants to be already. So the best thing when something's like this, like you just start measuring, and if everything's checking out and everything's like looking normal and right, then
send her home.
Yeah, you could probably be. I'm sometimes a perfectionist when I don't need to be. Some of this stuff you want to get as close as possible. If it's a 1/10 of a degree out, I mean, you're not going to know it going down the track. I mean, I've seen some motors in there, they're just crooked. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in here, probably about right there. Get us some nice area to weld to. Angle usually isn't truly square. I like to use angle because you get a little bit more weld. Some people just weld flat tabs on there. With the angle, you get a lot more surface area to weld to. So on going to these stock frames, the more surface area is better because a small thin tab can rip out. So if this thing's making a lot of power, like we talked about in the past, your mid plate takes the brunt of the power. So you want your mounts to be as strong as possible. So I think using the angle is a lot better idea than just using a flat tab welded to the frame. So we're gonna go right there. We got some clamps the other day, so I'm gonna see if we can clamp it, and if not, I'm just gonna hold it and start tacking it and welding it.
All right, let me get some clamps and we'll get to rolling here.
Go one way.
No, I think we go around.
You're gonna be hammering on the mid plate.
I ain't pushing.
I'm not looking at you.
I didn't know. You didn't know you had that much ass behind you? I think we all knew you had some ass behind you.
Put her out there. He got the mullet and he's just like, ugh. Alright, put her down.
Alright, we got the mock-up block in there.
Yep, so we got the mock-up block. The reason we bolted the block up is because the mid plate, sometimes they have some flex to them, so you want to bolt something to it. If it is, we checked it with a square and it is bent a little bit. So you bolt the block up, squares it up, that way you can get all your measurements. Right now we're at 3 degrees downhill, the chassis at 1 degree downhill, so that would give us our total angle of the engine at ride height, you know, somewhere around 2 degrees. It's hard to say with the ride height of the car. You know, we're just kind of working what we got on jack stands. So good. Gonna get our measurement here for our length. We're gonna burn this in, gonna tack this plate on there, drill it, and mid plate will be done. Once the mid plate's done, we'll leave it right here the same way, make sure our mid plate's not twisted or anything, keep our 3 degrees, and
we're gonna cut these tabs off.
Yep. Yeah, once we get our measurements here for the mid plate, we're gonna cut these tabs off because we won't need them anymore.
And then we'll put the aluminum motor plate on there.
Aluminum motor plate.
New motor plate tabs.
Yep. Figure out what kind of tabs we want.
Not as exquisite as the Slick Rick motor plate, but
yeah, a little bit different. You know,
this is more standard issue stuff. You order a motor plate kit, comes with some tabs and some bolts and hardware like that.
Weld them on there, it's good to go. Yeah. So we're gonna do that. We got a race to go to.
Yeah. All right, Matt got the first bolt hole drilled. About to rip the second one and get that bolted in there, and the mid plate be good to go. Obviously, once it's all said and done, we'll trim it up and make it nice, and also make it so it's easier to work on. Right now, it's a pain in the ass, and there's a lot of sharp corners on this car that we need to clean up and address. So once we get done here with that, cover everything up. Really need to get the car mobile to move it somewhere so you can just grind on it all day. There's probably a whole day worth of grinding on this car, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
All right, so we got a measurement of how much we need to trim the motor plate, and we just marked it. So it's taken, what, probably like 2 inches off each side?
Yeah.
About 2 inches off each side. Grab the porta band, buzz it down, be able to stick it in there. We use this motor plate on the Colorado build, so it has holes already drilled into it, which I don't think we're going to be able to use. They're pretty spread out. Obviously, the Colorado was a whole lot different, but we didn't trim the motor plate up solely for this reason. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to trim it up to get the holes out of there. Honestly, it's really not the end of the world. By the time you start hanging oil pump and fuel pump and all this other stuff off the motor plate, if we just, yeah, I mean, there's, yeah, so we'll,
if not, you got some extra holes, it don't really matter.
we just put like a nut and a bolt on it and just like hold nothing. You can hold 2 washers against it. People have no idea. It's like, damn, that thing looks pretty good there, bro. Be like, yeah.
Have to nut and bolt that too.
Yeah, just,
vibration.
Yeah, it's just an extra nut and bolt. We use it as like a seismograph. It'll let us know if other bolts might be getting loose.
There you go. I like that.
If you use the correct bolt with a lock nut and a lock washer and lock tight, you don't have that problem.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, everything on the well, we didn't do that on the Colorado. We slapped that thing together and hit the road, and that thing knocked every bolt loose.
Yeah.
But not on the Blizzard. Swiss cheese.
Yeah. Alright. Go straight up.
Oh wow, so this blower bracket will perform a whole lot better on this block than the other block.
Yeah, or any aftermarket block that has actual block.
So before the blower bracket, like this, the left passenger side bracket, the only thing that was holding it on was the mid plate. So like we had to just bolt to the mid plate and try to make braces to the block, where now all this stuff goes right to the block. So all right, y'all, we got the motor in the car. All we have to do left is put the tabs on the back, but we're going to take some extra time. We're going to weld up one of the holes that's literally like it's like directly in the middle of every single which way. So anywhere you go to drill a hole for the motor plate, it's just in the way. Welding it up, really no structural issue. It's more of an aesthetic thing. And
yeah,
I mean, it's just,
yeah, because the bolt hole where we need it's like halfway through, so we'll just weld it all up, clean it up, and then just drill through. So
we're pretty much done. The motor's in there. That's what it's going to look like with the motor plate, mid plate. Next time you guys see this, it'll be bolted all up there, and we'll actually put the legitimate Frankenstein-headed 460-inch TCAM Performance built blower motor in there, and we'll have the mid plate trimmed up. So we made some markings on it here where we're going to trim it up along the deck of the block and then straight across. That will help make it a little bit easier to work on it. And then here we're going to have it bolted up in the back. This hole is going to be filled in. We're going to have 2 holes there, and then we're going to have it trimmed up down here like that. So little bit of adjustment as far as some of the holes for the blower, but everything should be good with that. And then yeah, so we'll mock the motor up in here. We'll start building some zoomies. It'll be good because the way that Matt has the tabs built for this, we're gonna be able to put the motor plate on the engine, put the blower on the engine, all while on the engine stand, and when it's ready, slide it in there and then bolt it up.
That's right.
Ease.
Ready to go. Yeah, it's anything you can do out of the car. You know, if we're like, hey, we got to service the blower, it's easier just to zip the motor plate back. I mean, you could take the blower off, but I just like having the ability to do it a bunch of different ways if you want. You're not constrained to like, hey, we got to take the blower off, then we got to take all this other shit off, and then we can get the motor plate out. This way, we'll just be able to unzip the motor plate, take the whole thing off, put the whole thing back on one unit.
So, you guys, I know you guys think that it happens overnight, like, hey, just put a motor in the car, but there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. So, big shout out to Matt. Matt's been here helping out at LS Nasty a bunch, and one of the leaders of Small Block Ford Nasty.
Yeah, brutal.
So we're gonna get this thing all buttoned up here. Once we get the motor in there, I'm waiting on the oil pan from Williams Fab. I got the same oil pan for the Sheep as well. I'm gonna be running on this. I'm running that same oil pump, very similar fuel pump setup as well. So we got to get that stuff here and get it figured out, and then we should be good to go. So once we get that really rocking and rolling, Matt wants to do a little bit of chassis work to the car and integrate the transmission cross member into the chassis opposed to just having it modified in there. So make sure it's in there tied in real good. And other than that, we'll be ready to really start throwing it together, mount some seats, mount shifter, and start rocking and rolling. So the Blizzard build's coming together, Slick Rick build's coming together, Bad Apple's coming together, and the Black Sheep's getting some upgrades. So everything around here is moving wide open.
He get the buy this round. John Doc got to buy this round. The Black Sheep is on the property. He got to buy for the next round. 15